I'm excited to finally talk to you about goats. I am a very new goat owner, but I want to give you 10 things that I've already learned about goats from like ground zero. So here we go. Number one, they poop everywhere. Unlike some other livestock, which like to keep their bed a little bit nicer, like sheep, goats just poop everywhere. I have found that if they've been here in the horse trailer all night and I'm letting them out, they actually do wait to get out to relieve themselves by peeing, but poop, no, they just poop everywhere, including in their minerals, which we'll get to in a second. Number two, goats, this is so loud in here. Number two, goats need minerals. So this was something that was new to me. Everything with goats was new to me, but goats do need to have minerals. So this is the one that I got just from my local farm store. What goats need is different than the needs of sheep, and there's some minerals, I forget which ones, that sheep aren't supposed to have that goats are, or vice versa. So you have to be careful with that. So in here I have our minerals hanging up so I can just keep on refilling it as needed. So these are my goats. This is Sally, Mr. Spike, Charlie, McDreamy, and Mabel. Mabel, Charlie, and Sally are Boer mixes. Spike and McDreamy are Saanen mixes. And those are both meat breeds of goats. This is kind of a bonus thing I've learned, but it should have been obvious because I've been interested in raising cows, and there's meat cows and there's dairy cows, and it's the same thing with goats. There are some that are heavier meat producers and some that are heavier dairy producers, so these would be heavier meat producers. Number three, this is kind of a random fact, but goats don't have teeth on the top of their mouths. This was news to me. I want to see if Sally can help me demonstrate. Oh, do you want to help demonstrate, Charlie? Hi, Sally. They've got teeth on the bottom, but nothing on the top. It's just gums. Good girl. Yeah, you're a good boy, Charlie. Number four, goats can warm up to you. This was good news for me because I got these guys and they were all pretty scared of me. This guy actually was bottle raised, and so he's a wether, so he's a castrated male. And he was pretty shy at first, but now he's one of the most snuggly guys that we have. Sally's always been pretty friendly, but that's kind of a nice thing. I wasn't trying super hard to get the goats to like me, but Spike and McDreamy now are a lot more tame because they love grain, and so if I have grain, they'll come over and say hi. But this guy, I think, just kind of warmed up by getting used to me and knowing that I wasn't trying to hurt him. So now he's just a big love bug. Number five, goats do not like getting wet. Just across the field, there's somebody who has a lot of sheep and even a few cows. Those are out in all kinds of weather. They don't have any sort of shelter. That wouldn't be the best setup for goats. Poor Spike is a great example of this right now. So it's a pretty rainy day, and this poor guy is just doing everything he can to snuggle as close as he can to this tree. Hi, buddy. You still want some snuggles, huh? Hi, buddy. You doing okay? So again, this is Spike, and this is McDreamy. When I first got these guys, they would not let me pet them without treats or something. And they're still not crazy about me petting them, but they'll let me, which is great. Oh, McDreamy. He's got tassels, which is kind of a new thing too. I knew that pigs could be wattled or have tassels. I didn't know that about goats. Yeah. And so does he. Hello, Charlie. I know, it's gonna be okay. One kind of random fact, it seems like with these boys, they don't really like being rubbed under their chin very much, and I wonder if it's because they have tassels. Charlie doesn't mind at all, though. Charlie, you're too close. So I don't know if that's just a personality thing or if that's a breed thing. Hi. You guys are just so sweet. You cannot eat my watch, buddy. And you cannot eat my shirt, buddy. So obviously my goats have been finding shelter under trees, but the primary shelter I'm providing for them, and will be providing after I start rotationally grazing them, is this horse trailer that I was able to fix up. My goal and hope is to eventually have a circuit that's about 5 acres around the property that's all fenced in, that I will run these guys through to do rotational grazing. So I'm a little ways out from that, but this pasture is finally containing them. Now that kind of ties in with number 6. I'm trying to make number 6 with one hand. This is what it is in sign language. One sec. Number 6. Which is that goats are a lot more susceptible to parasites than other larger livestock like sheep or cows. I heard this is because a lot of goat breeds were bred in pretty arid, dry climates. So places like Missouri, where there's a lot of moisture, are not ideal for them because there's so many parasites and worms. But that's a big part of the reason why I want to do rotational grazing, partly because it's fantastic for the land, but also because it reduces the parasite load quite a bit, because they're in little paddocks inside of a big pasture for only a day or two at a time, and they're rotating around, and so they're not yes, so they don't get back to the first spot hopefully before 40 or 50 or maybe even 60 days. And so that gives a chance to break the life cycle of the parasite. You are just a big old gentle giant, you little sweetie. I haven't spent too much time with the goats recently because I've been focusing a lot on bee days and whatever else I'm doing. So these guys are just so ready to snuggle, I guess. So by and large, people will deworm their goats using ivermectin or some other medication. So I have given one dose to Spike and McDreamy. I actually haven't given a dose to Charlie or the girls yet. They're a little bit of a newer acquisition. I like to keep things as natural as possible, but that does seem pretty uncommon with goats. So there are some goat breeds that are a little bit more resistant to parasites, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it is, so I'll have to edit this in later. So I'm really glad that I'm trying things out with goats, but this does make me a little bit more interested in keeping sheep, partly because the hives that I use for my natural beekeeping use raw wool as insulation, so I could shear sheep. Speaking of which, bonus fact is that one of the main ways that people tell what kind of parasite load their goats have is with something called the Fumantia score. I hope I'm saying that right. But you just pull down on their eyelid, and the idea is that when there's a lot of parasites in an animal, it's going to be kind of sucking up a lot of their blood, using a lot of their blood, and so they're going to have less pigmentation in their eyelids. So looking at McDreamy here, got nice pink in his eye, so that would indicate a low parasite load. Good job, buddy. By the way, this is now August 3rd, 2023, and I went into this summer thinking, oh, I'm gonna have so much time to make a short video and a longer video each week, maybe even a second longer video each week. It's been like 3 weeks since I've posted any sort of long videos. So I've been keeping busy with natural beekeeping and with these guys, keeping them fenced in because they were escaping a lot. And we'll talk about that at the end of the video too. Number 7, I don't have enough fingers right now. You do need to trim goats' hooves. Charlie, you cannot eat the strap. Give me that. So Sally is going to be my example here. Her hooves are due for a trimming. I've trimmed them once. When they start to curl over like this, you want to get those all trimmed up. So I'll show you what I got for that. This is the kit that I ordered off of Amazon. It comes in this nice little orange bag. And it comes with these hoof clippers, trimmers. So you just, they're getting a little rusty. But you just use those to trim the excess. There's some great videos on how exactly to trim. I've trimmed all the goats' hooves once so far, but I should probably do it again. I've heard you're supposed to do it every 6 weeks or so. This is for a little bit larger animals or larger hoofs. And the kit that I got came with this brush to scrape gunk out and brush the hoof clean before you trim it, and some gloves. Number 8, the males make some funny faces and do some funny things when they're getting ready to want to mate. As you can see here, Spike sticks his tongue out, and sometimes they sound like a man that's dying. They'll also like nip and like bite the side of the doe, the female, when they're getting interested. McDreamy and Spike are both intact males, and so they get excited sometimes around Mabel and Sally, who are both does. Number 9, something that I just learned recently that I think is really interesting is that goats' horns aren't actually hollow. Hello. You so itchy? Hey, buddy. I assumed that you cannot eat my hair. Now, I just assumed that goats' horns were hollow, but it's kind of like if you've ever removed spurs from a rooster, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you remove the spur from a rooster, there's this like nub that's left that's all raw and it's bloody and it's just really tender, and then it'll heal and kind of harden and crust over. And that's how it is for goats too. Who knew? Goodbye, goats. Okay, last but not least, number 10 and 11, because I forgot, but I like the number 10 for my video better than 11. Number 10, I'm sure you've heard this before, but goats are excellent escape artists. I don't have a cow, but I've heard that cows pretty well respect fences. Barbed wire fences is enough to hold them in if they're not a calf. And sheep, I've heard, respect their boundaries pretty well. Goats are just kind of naughty. They just kind of push the buttons and see what they can push on, literally, to open. By the way, my channel is just kind of chronicling our homesteading adventures. A big part of that is natural beekeeping, but you can like this video and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you're interested in my upcoming video, which is going to be about fencing, because a big part of keeping these guys contained was getting the fencing up and running. And I had never done fencing before, never made a gate before, and so now I have some experience making fences and gates and figuring out what works and what doesn't. But anyway, this is one of the gates that I just recently made, and the chain is definitely necessary. Obviously the carabiner is broken. That's a little sneak peek into the next video on fencing. I use this 4-foot field fencing all around the perimeter where I want to keep them in, and they'll climb on it. Like, this had been nice and straight, but the goats decided that they wanted to get up high and eat some shrubs. They're kind of rough on fences. Speaking of which, number 11, bonus, is that goats really seem to prefer shrubs to grass. I had gotten these goats so that they could help me clear these pastures, and they have been doing a pretty good job, but I didn't realize they especially like shrubs and bushes and trees, and they're always climbing up high to get stuff if they can, which is another reason why I'm excited to hopefully get some sheep and goats, because I would like to help this pasture be as healthy as it can be and sustain the most animals as possible in one space. So it's going to be really efficient to have some of both. I like to be prepared when I have animals to house them properly and keep them contained properly. And so I was a little bit out of my element when it came to goats and keeping them fenced when I first got them. So for quite a while, they were kind of running loose. Not running, they were pretty calm, but they were hanging out on the porch and in the garage. They were pooping all over it, like we mentioned at the beginning of this video. But I ended up getting a really, really good deal on my first 2 goats, Spike and McDreamy, and then I also got a really good deal on the other 3 because somebody was kind of getting out of goats. And so it just felt like an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. So Charlie is a wether, so he is one that we're planning on butchering this winter. We're not planning on keeping him through the fall. But then McDreamy and Spike are both intact. We don't really need 2, so we're probably going to butcher one of them as well. And so these 2 girls may be bred now, so we'll see if they give birth in November, December, and we'll see if I want to go ahead and keep them or just go ahead and butcher them. Do you have goats yet? If so, tell me something else that you've learned about your goats below. And if not, are you gonna get goats? Thanks for watching. Bye.